Good evening. I'd like to call to order this special meeting of the Cunningham Town Board, and then that'll be followed by the City Council Committee of the Whole. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Trustees Brown. Here. Hazen. Hersey.
Here.
Jacobson. Miller.
Here.
Roberts.
Here.
Wu.
Here.
Chair Martin.
Here. Next on the agenda is public input. Does anyone wish to address the Cunningham Town Board? Okay, seeing none, we move on to resolution number T 2020-02-006R, resolution authorizing the Cunningham Township Assessor to sign a contract with Pictometry International Corporation for orthogonal and oblique imaging. And I understand on the phone we have
Lowell Davis.
Lowell Davis from the company. Okay, Wayne.
Pictometry, yeah.
So what I'm asking you to do is pass a resolution that will allow me to sign a contract with Pictometry. The cost of the contract is $18,790. I plan to pay for it by using the money left over in my appraisal line. I gave everyone a copy of the where we are financially in the assessor's office. So that's what this is. As you can see, on the personnel side, and we're about 60% through the fiscal year. On the personnel side, we've spent about 55% of our budget. The non-personnel side, we've spent about let's round up to 25% of our budget, and overall 48%. So we do have the money. It's not all due up front. Half of it would be due when they fly, and then the other half would be due a year later. So the company came and did a presentation, demonstration a couple weeks ago. Do you guys have any questions?
Mary Alice?
So I'm still trying to grasp a little bit in terms of how you're going to use this new file, this new technology, to be able to streamline some of the dimensions and the items that have been changed on houses. So if you could just kind of walk me through that again.
So basically, we're in the process of remeasuring and reassessing all of our residential properties. For the majority of the township, hasn't been done in a very long time. You're supposed to do it every 4 years. So what we're going to use this for, they're going to do a flight. It'll be a fresh flight. We have the cards. So what it'll do is it'll help us verify everything faster. A lot of it is verifying. There are a lot of little things we end up picking up: porches, stoops, a lot of DIY decks, the occasional apartment in the garage. What this technology will do will help us go through that faster. So, for example, one of my employees can't go out in the field, right? This would basically allow her to become a field employee, right? It doesn't replace going out. But what it does is it will say, no, you definitely don't need to go out in this one. Everything is right. We can go ahead and enter this card.
So it sounds to me like it will reduce the number of houses that you need to physically go out
Yes.
and measure. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Any other questions? Bill?
First, just on the contract page 4, it lists Lily Wilcock as the contact, I guess.
Oh, no, there was an updated contract sent out to you guys, and we got that corrected to my name.
Okay.
So part of this is, so the township is paying for it. However, we're going to allow for the city, and we got verification from the company we can do this. We're going to allow for the city community development department, law enforcement, fire, if they want it, to be able to use the technology, have a login basically, so they can use it. We're going to pay for it, we're going to use it, but we get 50 logins, right? At most we'll need 5. So we're going to let other city of Urbana departments use it for their purposes. I'll sit here and tell you right now that, $18,000 every other year looking forward is not something that I can support for the township taking on solely. I support doing it now, 1, because we have the money, and 2, because we're doing this massive thing of putting all our properties into a searchable, queryable database. Going forward, however, I couldn't see the township bearing this entire cost. But we want to see how the city uses it, see if they find the utility from it. and go from there. So they'll be able to use it. And basically, the city of Champaign does the same thing, except in the opposite. The city of Champaign pays for it. City of Champaign Township gets to use it.
Did they renew theirs?
They did not for
this
this year,
year.
but they are talking about doing it for following years.
Mhm.
They were at the end of a 6-year contract.
So this is basically a 2-year contract, and if we don't renew it, we don't have anything left, right? We have to give back the imagery and turn off the software, right?
Well, so like the imagery is stored on their server, right? We will get a copy of the orthogonal imagery that we get to keep. The oblique imagery is theirs, so they would keep that, but it's going to be on their servers because we need to use their software to log in to use it.
Okay.
So, I mean,
And the orthogonal isn't that much different from what we already
Right.
get through
It's the-
CCGIS.
the oblique is the added value part that pictometry provides.
Okay. And we looked at the demo, and you know how to use Google 3D and fly around and look from different angles in Google Maps.
Right.
And but that resolution is not nearly as good, and the trees have leaves on them in the
Right.
Google imagery,
Well, and also there's not a measurement tool either.
and there's no measurement tool. Okay, so for $10,000 a year, 200 hours, 200 office hours a year, that comes out to about $40, $50. I think, 250 office hours, yeah, so about $40 a day. You think you'd get $40 a day usefulness out of this?
I do, absolutely. And it'll, right now, my staff is 4, me plus 4. It'll help me get it back down to 3 sooner rather than later.
Okay, thanks.
Mary Alice?
So, Wayne, you and I had a conversation about concurrency, and perhaps this is
I'm sorry.
the
Oh,
concurrency,
concurrency.
right? So you said that you had 50 logins. Usually in software contracts, concurrency means that you can only have 50 people on at one time. Now, we're not going to go over that, but that would say that you could have more than 50 logins. So I'm just thinking of the city in terms of how many people they could have logged in. Can I have a clarification from perhaps the sales rep on that? The definition?
Yeah,
Thank
yeah, that's no problem. So you're right about that. It is a 50-person license, so 50 people concurrently can be logged in at any one time. You can actually have 250 people in the system, but only 50 people at one time can be logged in to use the imagery.
All right, thank you.
Does that answer your question?
Absolutely.
Okay,
Thank you.
sure.
You could have every single employee in the city of Urbana on this system, technically. Okay. Any other questions? Jared?
Wayne, just one question. How much is recurring costs versus upfront costs?
So half of it, so I think, what is it, like 10% is due at signing, and then up to 50% of the cost will be due once they do their first flight, and then the other 50% is due a year after that first flight. After that, if we don't choose to enter into a new contract, then there's no more cost. We don't get to use the oblique imagery anymore. We'll have the orthogonal imagery forever.
I guess my question would be, is there a cheaper alternative to keeping access to the orthogonal, or not the orthogonal, but
The
the
oblique.
oblique imagery
So-
that is taken? We don't have to renew shots every year.
Right, so, can I see this? If you look at the Pictometry Connect, Lo, can you correct me if I'm wrong, but the Pictometry Connect
Yeah.
allows for the interface that allow us to actually use the obliques. In theory, we could renew just that part without getting a new flight, is that right?
You can,
But
yes.
then-
You wouldn't have to, if you say you just did this flight in the spring here of 2020, and say we never came back and did another flight for you, you can still use the online service that's there. That's the Connect 50 that we were talking about, the perpetual license. If you renew that each year, that allows you to continue to move forward using the imagery as long as you'd like to.
Okay. Well, that answered my question. I was just curious if we would be able to pay less to keep seeing what we're at least getting out of this year if we don't seek new imagery year in and year out.
You definitely would.
Mary Alice?
So Jared, thanks for that question, because that was a good question. So right now in the contract, it says we have a quantity of 2. So that means that if we wanted to have only 25 concurrent licenses, it would be 2,200 instead of 4,400. Why is our
Yeah,
quantity? Is that correct?
So the quantity of 2 correlates with the year. So
Gotcha.
we
So that's
have
one
that,
each year. Gotcha.
since you're paying this over a 2-year time frame, that Connect is in there for 2 years. So you'd be able to view that imagery in 2020 for the full year and then for 2021. After that time frame, then if you wanted to continue to view the imagery, you would just have to re-up. So it would be the 2,200 per year is what it would be for the 50 logins.
Sharice?
I was absent when you guys did the example, the
Demonstration.
the demonstration. So there's some terms that I don't understand, so I'm going to ask. Orthogonal, what is that? What is it called? Yeah, that too. Okay, so could I get a definition of those the different types of imaging of the, say it again, Jared? Oblique and orthogonal. I know oblique. Say the other one.
Orthogonal.
Orthogonal. So does that mean like,
At an angle down.
okay. I'm just,
Oh, yeah,
if I could
on
just,
top. It's like
oh, it's on
looking
top, okay. Give a definition of that? What it would kind of look like, or?
Lowell, can you handle that?
Yeah, sure can. So the orthogonal imagery is essentially just a straight down shot. So if you think about imagery that you might have seen in the past, maybe there at the township level or the city or county or just generally, it's a straight down image. So if you were looking at a particular property, it's more of a roof type shot, just like you were looking straight down. And then the oblique imagery, we fly that at a 40 to 45 degree angle, and that allows you to completely look around the property north, south, east, and west from the sides.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Sure.
Dennis?
Yeah, I guess 2 things. So this is we saw the demonstration at the viewing a couple of weeks ago. This is what you call Eagle View. Is that correct? Is that the term name, or is that not?
Yeah, I've been kind of using them interchangeably.
Okay. All right. So we're still talking about the same project.
Yes.
And then, would the entire city be mapped during the first year? Is it easy to map the full city? Are you expecting it to be the entire city of Urbana to be mapped?
No, when you say mapped, I just want to make sure I know exactly what you
Photographed.
mean. So they'll do the photography. They're going to fly a plane, and that'll be done in a couple hours.
Over the entire property that we're concerned about?
Right.
Okay.
And then on the last page, it has there's a picture of the township,
Yeah.
which is also the city of Urbana, and it shows you which blocks are going to be photographed, what we're paying for, basically.
Okay, all right. But that all can be done very quickly?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sharice?
They won't let me fly in the plane with them. I did ask for quality control purposes. Apparently, there's only one seat for the pilot. So,
Are you going to be also getting, and I don't know if this is even relevant, orthogonal and oblique images of unincorporated Urbana Township?
so there's a part of unincorporated Urbana Township that's kind of smack dab in the middle, like kind of right up in here, right? That's technically unincorporated Urbana. That'll be included just because it's not like they can just turn off the cameras.
Uh-huh.
Well, I guess they could, but they won't because, and then the plane will have to like turn around,
Mhm.
right? So they'll get shots of that. I think what's included, low, I think it's half a mile out. That's included.
Yeah, generally, when we do our thing, because of the oblique perspective that we have to have, the side views, the plane generally goes out, and it just depends on which side and areas and that kind of thing. I don't have like a specific distance for you every time, but generally there's additional capture outside of that area that you see. just because when the planes go out, they have to turn around and come back. So to capture those side angles.
Okay, so that would be a yes then.
Yeah, so not the entirety of unincorporated Urbana or Summer Township, but we would get some of it.
Okay. Well, because I was wondering if that part of those unincorporated properties are also included under Cunningham Township or no?
No.
No. But in the event that there is a local change in their in that area, then we would have those images. That's what I'm thinking about. It's like thinking ahead.
So yeah.
Okay.
Up to a certain limit. Like, it's not limitless, but up to a certain limit we would. I mean, if you want, I mean, we can expand the squares now, but I'm not asking for that. Like, I'm asking for the needs for my office right now.
Okie dokie.
Mary Alice?
So did you have Fred look over the contract?
Many times.
Okay, all right. I just know that at the university, we're under obligation to have the governing law be the state of Illinois rather than another state, and this one has the state of New York. Is that an issue at all?
Yeah, it is. So that it should have been updated in the most recent contract that was sent out with my name. But yeah, that was like one of the first things that we saw.
Bill?
So for the 4-year reassessment, what do you call it?
Quadrennial?
Quadrennial reassessment. When does that have to be done? Isn't that this summer?
Yes, but we're supposed to constantly be looking at our properties on a mass level to see if they are
Okay.
assessed accurately.
But for that part, this oblique imagery would just be useful maybe for the last month or something by the time you get it, right? Or have you already finished with the
No, we're still working,
Okay.
like, diligently.
And this will be delivered in May, April?
Lo, if we do the flight this spring, when do you think we'd get the imagery?
Yes. So the way it works, usually we start in the March timeframe, so coming up here actually very soon, depending on weather. It's been a very strange winter. We really haven't had much of one over here in Indianapolis, but depending on how things go, we generally try and start our flight season once the snow is gone and before the leaves come back on. So that would mean starting sometime in the early March timeframe, depending on what we see going forward here, March through April, depending on coverage and what comes on with the leaves and that kind of thing. And then there's usually a 30-day turnaround from the time we get done capturing. So if we get done, say, at the end of March, generally you'd have it by the end of, April timeframe. The other thing that happens when we fly, the full delivery will take 30 days to get back to you. But we also have something that will turn on, and it's called early access. So as the drives are captured and they're sent back to Rochester, as they're processing that imagery and getting it put into our servers and that kind of thing, Wayne and his team will be able to go ahead and start looking at some of the imagery before it gets fully what we call QC'd, quality controlled out there. So they can actually start working with it. A lot of the customers will actually start working with it a lot of times as quick as 7 to 10 days after we start capturing it.
Okay, thanks. So for the quadrennial reassessment, it doesn't look like it'll be very useful, maybe for a month or something, but after that, you'll still be able to evaluate properties, and if you find a garage that wasn't in your records, you could add that in there? Yeah. Is that right? Okay.
Dennis?
Yeah. Will images, single images of some of the pictorials that we collect be available as individual JPEGs to use, or will they always be in the cloud? And can they be downloaded or pulled for, what I'm thinking of is historic survey use perhaps in the future of certain streets that might want to be evaluated for a historic district or a preservation purpose.
Want me to take that one?
Yeah.
Do you want me to repeat the question? Okay.
Yeah, so the nice thing is, one of the things that we do, we've talked a lot about when we fly, we put this on the cloud, we've talked about concurrent users and people being able to pull it in. via web access and that sort of thing, which is nice, and that's how a lot of people are using it these days. But we also put all of this imagery, the ortho imagery that you want to see, that kind of thing, on a hard drive as well. And that is yours to keep and have. So you will have that in whatever format that you want that in. It can be in a JPEG, a Mr. SID, an ECW, whatever that is. So you will always have that hard drive copy of the imagery to use in some of those other instances that you might find advantageous.
You were mentioned the ortho, but did you also mean the oblique?
So that would be the ortho stuff that we're talking about. But the obliques, again, you could pull some of that imagery off there. It wouldn't be necessarily in probably a JPEG format, but as long as you have access to that, if you wanted to use it for different reasons, you can export it to a PDF, you can export the image, you can do all sorts of different things in that web-based product that might still allow you to use that imagery for reasons that you might be looking to do, for some of the other projects and things you might be able to do.
Right. So what I'm thinking is that, of course, I see the purpose for it as far as evaluating buildings for their property tax values, but it's also a way of evaluating a building for detailing of historic elements which might contribute or not contribute to a landmark nomination or some other use in the future. Currently, we're also doing historic districts in the city, and the Historic Preservation Commission is doing survey work in both West and East Urbana of making a pictorial record of the homes. So it would be useful to be able to assemble images that are in this data bank, to pull down and to attach to or use in any kind of report or attach to a nomination form, rather than to drive out and maybe take pictures from the car. Just trying to think of other ways that they could be useful to the city. And so you're saying that
you certainly could do that.
Mm-hmm. So individual sides of the buildings, individual snapshots might be available to be pulled from the database individually or in a train?
Yeah, it would. So what you can do in the Connect platform there, that web-based platform, you could go out to the house that you're looking at or what have you. You could go around and look at each side individually.
Mm-hmm.
You could export that image. So if you wanted to put it into some sort of an additional resource like a publication, or put it into a book or some sort of something that you have going on detailing some of these historic areas and properties, you certainly can do that. You can export that image out, and you could use it, I think, in the instances that you're talking about, to identify and be able to use, for what you're doing there.
Okay, so that's great. So we wouldn't have, there wouldn't be a proprietary problem about attaining an image from that part of the database.
There would not, as long as, say you want to pull that image out and you want to use that in a publication or something like that.
Right.
The only thing we would like to see, if that's going to go out to the public or it's going to go out, in a bigger way, is that we'd like to see, like in the corner there, a reference to the company, that sort of thing, that just, details, that says essentially that, this is a pictometry or an eagle view image down there is all.
Yeah, that's great, because we would do that, any kind of use of that way, if it was coming from our own library database. So that's fine. Thank you.
Okay. Sure.
We do have a housekeeping item here. I don't think any of us received the latest version of it. It still refers to the state of New York, and so Charlie is going to look to see if he can get a copy. So. Yeah, Mary Alice.
So aside from the state of New York and changing the name from Lily to Wayne, were there any other differences between the documents that were sent?
No.
So those are the only two items? So that's the item that was sent on Friday, is the one that has your name, but it also still has the state of New York. So if Charlie can't find it, I suppose we can just do an amendment?
Sure, you can amend the motion.
Yeah.
The state of New York is just in that one place, correct?
What page are you looking
Page
at?
7 of 14.
It's actually page 11 on here, but it might be page 7 on here.
Jared?
Wayne, do you know if we're going to have access to any other historical imagery through what we're going to get from this, if they have other stock photos from the region or anything like that?
Low?
You will. So we have done some other flights. In fact, I think, did we show them, Wayne? We probably did not show them at the last meeting, I don't think. Or did we look at some historical stuff there? I think we do have some additional historical stuff that we've done there, and you will have access to all of that as well.
Okay.
So if, that's something that we do for any county or city or township or anyone that we fly. If we have historical imagery that we've done in the past, for different reasons in that area, that's something that's nice too. We always make that available, and that goes into the Connect platform, so you can view that and go back and look in time, to see what we've got, there for you. So you definitely will.
Cool. Thanks.
Sure.
I don't think we need printed copies if that's the only change, as long as we,
There's only two
they can
changes.
move, just amending,
That-
reflecting that when they move.
Sure.
Mary Alice?
I'll move approval of resolution number T 2020-02006R with the change of, under the contract, section B 7C, that the license will be governed by and interpreted in accordance with the laws of the state of Illinois, with approval.
I'll second it.
Any further discussion? Second by Jared.
I do have that contract if you'd like me to email that over to you. I didn't mean to butt in on your meeting, but if you'd like me to email that over to you, I think I have it here. So you folks will have it. Or I can send it to Wayne if you'd like.
And the city clerk?
And the city
advise.
clerk, please.
Okay.
Thank you. So I was just handed a note. We also need to amend section 6.6, which mentions the state of New York on page 9 to be the state of Illinois. So perhaps we can do a search and replace on New York with Illinois.
I think we...
Yes, I see it. It's on page 10 of the contract.
9
Nine
and
and
10.
9 and 10.
There's
So
a
is
few-
that allowable?
few
You're
sections
right,
in
6.6.
Section 6.
And 6.6, which overlaps on page 9 and 10. Is it allowable for us to just do a search and replace on anything that says the state of New York in case we didn't catch anything else? I don't know if that's allowable.
What we can do is I can send this back over to Lindsay in the contracting department and make her aware if you tell Wayne there what needs to change yet on the contract, we can go in and we can make that change.
And then,
Wayne can send me an email. I'll send that over to Lindsay in contracting. She'll get that changed and then sent back to you if that's fine.
And then also, like, section C includes non-standard terms, and everything is state of Illinois, and that's on page 13.
Mary Alice?
The clerk is advising that we do approval pending legal review.
That's fine.
Would you like
Instead of
to
search and
restate your
replace.
motion, please?
All right, let's see here. I will move approval of resolution number T 2020-02006R, a resolution authorizing the Cunningham Township Assessor to sign a contract with Pictometry International Corp. for orthogonal and oblique imaging with a recommendation for approval and legals.
Pending legal
Pen-
review.
Thank you, pending legal review. To replace the state of New York with the state of Illinois.
And any other language that needs to be changed.
And the other language that needs to be changed, yes.
Okay.
Second that extended motion.
Okay. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Trustees Brown? Hersey?
Yes.
Miller?
Yes?
Roberts?
Yes.
And Wu.
Yes.
That motion passes. With no further business before the town board, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much.